Thank you, everyone, for understanding. This today's isn't live, so we don't want to trick you and you think it is because we're pre-recording this because Brenda has exciting news. But anyway, before we go there, let's talk about Brenda. What there's emotions, right? There's emotions, maybe some joy, or there's contentment. Well, I don't know if that's an emotion, but you know what I mean. Peace of mind. There's happiness. There's emotions like frustration and disabled, and that disconnect type thing. But anger, which is an emotion for sure, but sometimes with emotions, I don't need to assign exact meaning. I need to uh, notice, acknowledge, sometimes allow it to pass, sometimes move a muscle, change a thought, things like that. But I believe with anger, I do need to process it because it's not the dubious luxury of me to say blame something outside of me that I'm angry because of, and then I don't do anything about it. I just hang on to it, or then I share it with other people, and so the next day, the next week, and then the next event of that, maybe another anger crops up, maybe reignites the one I never did anything with. So it's not it, because I did a process that went through all of that and found the core of that. Where and why was this happening during the day when the littlest thing could set me off? And I would then say, this is why I'm angry. And then maybe I would share it with the person I'm angry with, or I would make a face, or I would walk out of the room, or I would roll my eyes, or I would then self seek, as in I would go and say, you wouldn't believe what so and so, that stuff. So, does that resonate with you at all?
Yes, it does. It resonates with me a lot. And anger, I used to think that anger was like when my dad would get angry, he would rage or he would be violent, right? And so that's really what I thought anger was. And what I've come to learn is that anger has many forms, that it's not just the reaction when, say, you're triggered and you yell at somebody or you call someone a name, like when you're having a heated argument. Anger for me is also when I'll ruminate about something. Like I'll be triggered, and it always happens for me. I'm triggered in some way. And what I mean by triggered is an event will happen, someone will say something, someone will do something, life will happen in a way that I'm not expecting it to, and it triggers an old feeling, an old circumstance, an old unresolved trauma, and I immediately go to anger because anger is how I protect myself. So I think, right? It's conditioned thinking. And anger can come in those situations a lot of times in the form of ruminating, obsessing, playing out in my mind what I'm going to say next time I see that person, building a story around the event or what happened, plotting my revenge. All of those things are forms of anger. I didn't know that before. I didn't know that before. And anger for me is a mask for hurt. When I'm angry, it's really that down here in my heart, I'm hurt about something.
Hmm. I put anger management because we hear that. Like there's probably books and courses. There's probably therapists and people that manage anger. Like let's manage something. Like I don't know how I would have to like take it out of me, put it somewhere, and leave it be, and then comb its hairs. I don't get how I would manage it because if I don't resolve it, there's no management process. There's because it, like you said, ruminate, it could grow in other ways, other angles, and then I could be like, gosh, the TV, if the clicker isn't advancing something quick enough, I'm pressing the button, now my teeth are going together, and I'm thinking, who's the idiot that made this crappy remote you know but it's because earlier in the day, maybe I was thinking of myself and I wanted things to work out a certain way.
Right.
Maybe I ordered a lunch, and when I got it back to my business to eat it, it didn't have what I wanted on it. And, and part of me would say, at times I would say they did that just to irritate me. Like, that's how people run their businesses. They think, let's piss this guy off for fun. But, and it's like, or, of all days, I just needed the right lunch. I just had this disgusting story around it. So I might then, be pissed off and say, I'm never eating there again, and say, yeah, my lunch sucked today. How was yours? I'm sure it sucked. It better suck. You better not tell me it was good, because then I would get mad or feel worse about, it's crazy. So I actually would put pressure on people, because when I'm angry, you need to respect that and tell me it's going to be okay. Rub my, yeah, you should be angry. It's justified. That person is an idiot, because nobody's allowed to make mistakes when it involves me. I'm a sensitive guy. I'm thinking, that lady shouldn't have made that mistake, because if I would be happier. Oh my gosh, that stuff. I mean, that more. And really, where does it come from? Fear that she didn't like me. Fear that because I don't because the way I am, I get bad lunches sometimes, or I get the wrong product. And fear that one of my fears, like, I was afraid that I got angry a lot and I tried to hide it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, you can't hide being angry. You can try, but that energy, you could feel it. You don't have to say a word and you could feel it. You said so much there, Charlie. The not getting our way, or circumstances not happening the way we want them to, or somebody saying or doing something that not behaving the way we want them to. Really, that's a big one for me. When someone's not behaving the way I would behave if I were them and in their shoes, that always triggers me. I shouldn't say always. Often that will trigger me. Less often today than it used to. And, and the thing with that is, in those situations, when I'm triggered by that behavior, I'm thinking, well, I would never do that. I would never say that. I would never be that rude. I wouldn't be that selfish or inconsiderate. I would never say I'm going to be there and not show up. These are all the little things that used to really piss me off, quite honestly. Right? But I'm not them. I am not them. And they are not me. And it took me a long time to make that connection, that people can't understand my point of view sometimes simply because they're not me. They're them. I'll give you a really good example, because this really bothered me this week. I think you're going to like it too. So I go up into the coffee room to get some coffee, and I'm typing a text on my phone, and I'm engrossed in typing this text. And somebody walks into the coffee room and starts talking. Not even acknowledging that I'm involved in something else, right? So they're interrupting me is what they're doing, right? I was in there by myself. They came in, and then when I looked up and repeated part of what they said, their response was, well, you missed the beginning. As if it's my fault that I missed the beginning because you came in and interrupted me. And I didn't respond in a loving way in that moment. I didn't respond in a loving way. I was irritated. And then as I'm walking away, I'm thinking, how rude was that? That this person's being snarky with me because I didn't drop what I was doing when they interrupted me to pay attention to what they were saying. Right? So I had to go do a 10 on that. I had to go inventory that disturbance. And I was reminded in that moment, this is what my coach said to me, who are you thinking 98% of the time? I said, me. Who do you think? Who's there?
Who was, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Is that a car I hear?
No, it was a very loud motorcycle that is creating a disturbance in me.
So my coach said, who do you think they're thinking about 98% of the time? I said, them. She said, well, do you think it even occurred to them that you were involved in something else? You were standing there, you were in the room, they had something to say and they wanted to get back to doing what they were doing. You weren't even a blip on their radar. But what I internalized, right? What I interpreted was, you don't respect me because you just interrupted me. And I don't even know what the word is. Like, I felt so invalidated and discarded in having that person make a snarky remark because I didn't drop what I was doing to listen to what it was they had to say. So I personalized all of that. And I personalized it because I'm tying, that's an attachment from old trauma, old hurts, old experiences that weren't really happening in the present moment, but I brought them into the present moment. Kind of what you were saying. I built a story around the event that was happening. And had I not done a 10, Charlie, that story would have grown and grown and grown. And I would have exaggerated it. I would have made myself more of a victim. I would have been more right in the way I was feeling. It's just, and that's why it's important to do anger management. By one of the ways you can do it is by inventorying that disturbance when you have it.
Yeah, I like that because there's another thing I like to, when I'm working with people, I also would ask, Anne, could you put yourself in that person's shoes? Have you ever entered a spot and started saying something, and then as you were saying what you were saying, maybe that person was doing something, but I kind of maybe thought, it's not as important as what I want them to hear coming from me. So stop doing what you're doing and pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
And even though I'm not, and when they say, I didn't hear you, I was in the middle of a text, I get irritated. Like, how dare you? Didn't you see me come in? But, and it's like, so I can then say, I've done that. I've been that person walking in and accidentally, because I need to tell you something. And right now is the time I've chosen to tell you.
Yeah.
And but as we get help, and it could be, hey Brenda, let me know when you're done texting. I wanted to tell you. Oh, okay, yeah, give me another minute. And it's like, I love that way. I dictate my texts. So and I have people that just start talking to me. I'm like, do you want me to say what I'm thinking right now? How are you stupid? Do you not hear me talking to my phone? What do you think? I'm just sitting in here yapping away to myself? And now your words, because you started talking, are in my text. Now I got to edit it. The whole world is coming down. Now get out of here, because whatever you had to say, I don't care anymore.
My kids have done that 1,000 times. 1,000 times. That's a good example.
Yeah. But guess what? I walked in, my wife works in the office, and I go in around the corner and I'm blah, 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 and she's in a meeting on camera. And I'm like, she's like putting her finger up. I can't see that. So I'm always thinking, I know which finger that is. But, and then oh crap. But most of the time I open the door a little and I go, good to talk. And she's like, yep. So then, because the old me was, I got to tell her this. I don't think about anything but me and what I got to tell her. And when I'm in that mode, I also have a response I want that person to give me when I tell them that information, whatever it might be. Sadly, because I'm in me. I'm thinking of me. I'm going to get this done because I want to do this. I want to get a certain response because I think it's good, bad, and different. And then I want to then finish that. And I hope to God that person doesn't want to tell me anything, because I just want to move, get on. And it's like, and is that selfish? Oh my Lord. Is it dishonest? Yeah, it is, because I am trying to run the show. I want things to work. I could rest satisfaction and happiness when I know others just are gonna play by my rules. I need to write a book. It's called Charlie's Rules for Life. There's a book, The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Mine would be a couple of 100 rules. and they might change depending on my mood. So anyway, I get it. And it's like, oops. So they've come in and talked to me when I'm dictating and doing things, or I'm listening. So I have a screen reader. I can't see my phone. So I can, but sometimes I want my phone to read it to me. So it's obvious it's doing it out loud, you know. Do I got to announce, hey, I need to, and it's reading away, and then a person just starts talking, and it's like, well, you can stop that. I can also choke you. Don't you know who I am? I'm anger management. You know, and that's so what I really, anger can be a flat tire, could be a store, could be I'm mad at me because I said I was going to do stuff during the day and I didn't do it. I failed. So now I'm blaming it outside of me. It's this person and that line. And, you know, you know,
And, and you know what I want to say before it leaves my brain, because it does that quickly, especially on a Friday night when it's later. So I'm upset in that moment with that person in the coffee room. I'm upset at him for not obeying a boundary I didn't set, because I could have easily said, instead of personalizing what that person was doing, interrupting me, I could have easily said in a mature, healthy way, I'll be with you in a minute. Hang on. That's it. That's all I needed to say. And that situation could have been completely different. Anyway, go on. I had to get that out.
yeah, but that's right. And without resentment, without any judgment, with nothing, just like you just noticed they just kind of didn't catch on you were busy. So hey, I'll be with you in a moment, no biggie. And then that person might even then when you give them the space, the floor, the moment
Right.
that person usually would say, sorry about that. I wasn't
Right.
paying attention.
Right. But I personalized it. My assumption was, here was my assumption. He doesn't respect me. That's my foundation. He doesn't respect me. And that's my stuff. He didn't bring that into the coffee room. I did. And so I got angry because of that personalization, because of the attachment I had to what he was doing. I attached meaning to his behavior when there really wasn't any.
Well, you attached meaning, but you also assigned the behavior he should have performed in your presence.
Yes.
But Brenda, but what you did was you took that disturbance to a coach.
Yep.
And you went through where you were only thinking of you and how you wanted things. You thought a little bit about how you might have done some thinking for that other party and they should have thought or said or whatever. Maybe you carried it out of there until you did call your coach and maybe you talked to somebody at work like, oh, you and Bob just, but maybe not. But then maybe there was some fear. Maybe you thought about, God, why do people do, whatever. But you picked up the phone, you said, and as little as that is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be, I had somebody cut me off and I spun out in the car and banged up the car. Like, I am really angry. Okay, that might take a couple of times, but that one, so many, I would normally blow it off, like think I'm not really, I'll let it pass. But when we then call and to our coach and we take a look at it, they 9 times out of 10 lovingly help me see something I didn't see. And by the end of that call, it's 100% gone. I feel love and tolerance. I feel closer to all people at work and I love myself more. And it's like, are you kidding? How is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the problem begins with us. It's never the other person or the circumstance or even when life happens. When I find myself in a position like I was this week in that specific circumstance, there was a whole bunch of stuff that led up to that moment. There was something else going on long before that person walked in the coffee room and interrupted me and then had an attitude because I wasn't paying attention. There was some other events that had taken place that I didn't take care of. And you opened the podcast talking about that when we have something going on If we don't take care of it, it builds. It's like a snowball, right? It gets bigger, it gets bigger, it gets bigger until we explode. So when I am angry, I need to look at the things in the past 24 hours, really. And if I'm not taking care of my emotional sobriety, we call it my emotional intelligence, my emotional sobriety, if I'm not taking care of that, I may need to look back a few days to see where the ball started rolling, where I got the ball rolling. And it's usually long before anger sets in, unless it's, like a car accident or something you're talking about where it's a reaction.
But we also, in our coaching practice and working with people, we give kind of like a ending day kind of process, just to take a quick look at the ledger, to make sure I'm going to bed clean, so I'm not carrying. And in the morning, we kind of have a pre-flight. Each person does their thing, but it's kind of set the stage. And if I'm being honest, in those two spaces, I pretty much don't carry that stuff. So, Brenda, let me share something with you, and you bring me through.
You bet.
Okay. So I have this camera, and this camera needed batteries, and I waited about 8 months, and then I started working on it. Put the new batteries, very inexpensive. Prime Day had a wicked sale, and finally got a couple batteries. And I thought, I'm going to plug it in and maybe use it as a second webcam and, get fancy. And I'm plugging it in, but it's not getting recognized properly by my computer, the software, the camera that I'm getting. So I'm starting to, okay, that's an issue. I'm going to work through it. Well, it says update the camera firmware, do this, do that. And I'm like, why do things got to be so difficult? Well, who wanted to use it as this second or third camera hooked up? I already have one that works. I have a second one that works. Why not do something that I don't really need to do, but it's cool? And so now I'm getting really angry. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. This kind of stuff happens to me a lot. Now, okay, well, hold on. So anyway, so I'm angry. And I then put it away. No, I didn't put it away. I let it speak to me over there. I'm gonna beat you up. No, so I'm angry over that. So what would you do to help me through that? I see my part. I'm pissed off. I'm giving my power away to a camera thingy not working the way I think it should.
The first thing I would do, Charlie, is ask you, what do you want? What is it you really want?
When that started, this is a GoPro Hero 8. So when this started doing that, you know what I did? What do I want?
Yeah.
I went online and I looked at the current model, which is a 12 version. And I'm like, if I buy that, which I don't need, cannot even, I should not even do anything like that. But if I buy that and get it to my house in a day, it'll solve my anger. And so what do I want? What do I it's kind of dishonest. I want electronics and technology just to work every time I go to use it.
So you want to be able to just put the battery in, plug it in, and have it work, right? And so if you did that, what would you have? What would you have if you had gotten what you wanted?
An accomplishment. I would have been like, cool, I got all this work. And then I would have then unplugged it and moved on because I really didn't need it.
Thank you. I was going to go there. So let's keep talking about what you wanted. So you wanted to be able to plug it in and have it work. And just have it work even though you hadn't plugged it in how long? 8 months? It didn't have batteries. Had you installed another camera before that one?
Yeah, I have other. Yes, with yes. So it did recognize it, and it was supposed to be but whatever. Yes, I did, but I let it go months, and so maybe the computer got an update, but that didn't. So they weren't speaking the same language.
Okay, so we know what you wanted. You just wanted to be able to plug it in and have it do what you wanted it to do. And then you were going to be happy and you're going to put it aside for maybe another day to use it whenever, maybe as a third camera. You don't really need it. So, did you have problems with your system not too long ago? Your entire system?
Hmm. Yes.
Maybe about 15 podcasts ago, about 15
Maybe.
weeks ago. Yeah. And nothing was working right. Is that true?
Yeah, I think the whole thing needed a sledgehammer that day.
Right. So is it dishonest to think that it's not probably expected that this might not work since that event? If you think back?
No, I think it's because the camera hasn't been turned on, and cameras have software and firmware in them, and they need to be updated. And the
Yes. Yep.
software on my computer that runs that stuff was updated, so they were clashing. Being understanding programming, and so I had an outdated, and I didn't catch it right away, and I was angry.
So my point was, is it dishonest to expect it to be able to be plugged in and work?
I don't want it to be dishonest, but if I'm being honest to thy own self, absolutely.
Yeah. And the other point was, you've had problems with the system itself before, unexpected problems, weird problems you tried everything and it couldn't be fixed, plugging in Facebook attached. So problems with technology is a pretty common thing to have happen on semi-regular basis because it changes so quickly. Is that a true statement?
Yes, and thank you for reminding me of that day.
You're welcome.
You know,
So here's where I'm going with that. So is it a reasonable expectation to have something just plug in and work?
if maintained, and yes, it is
In
a
this
reason.
circumstance, as it relates to this disturbance?
No,
No, it wasn't reasonable. It wasn't reasonable. So let's talk about, in that moment when it wasn't working, what did you lose? What did you lose? How did you feel in that moment?
how did I feel? Felt like, why does this have to happen to me? I'm legally blind. It takes me, it's harder for me to figure all this out, but I am a junkie on solving problems, so it feeds me. And sometimes, Brenda, I just raise that bar. I do too much. I don't even need to do a lot of the things, but I challenge my system and my peripherals for. I don't, maybe because I'm looking for something so I can get angry. No, I don't believe that's it.
Well,
So
sometimes we are. Sometimes it feels really good to be angry. It really does. Did you feel like you had any power in that moment when that device was failing?
I did like the first two attempts on to resolve it, and then started feeling, well, I didn't know I was giving my power over, but I didn't know that. At first, I was taking charge, doing, looking, trying, and then I said, well, let me reboot, let me try, let me do this again, and then I started giving my power over to the dumb people that made it, and you know what I mean. So I was becoming powerless.
And when we're feeling powerless, what don't we have? What
Well, we don't have good from stimulus to response, so we don't have a good thought process, I believe. I think we have our blame thrower out, and what we don't have is power.
exactly? And what's another word for power? What's the
What
big thing that people are looking for all the time to feel safe?
the big thing that people are looking for to be safe is, if it's another word for power,
It's another word for power.
uh,
When we're arranging the lights and we're running the show and we're
control.
yeah. And so when you are feeling like you don't have control, does it make you angry?
Yes.
Yes. Does it make you afraid?
Well, maybe, but I'm angry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't get afraid that about this, but other certain things, yes. Most
Well,
things involves humans, but not stuff for the most part.
when you go from anger to, because anger is the initial, it is in my experience, it's the initial reaction, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's when we're activated. That's when the amygdala starts to get activated. Now we're angry, right? It's a very powerful emotion. And then the story starts to ensue. So as you were getting angry, tell me a little bit more about the story that you started to tell yourself. This always happens to me. What else? Why me?
Exactly. Does this have to happen to me? I didn't want to deal with this. It should just work. I'll try it. And then I'm unplugging, trying different plugs to see if it's a USB port issue. And then something came up on the screen of the camera. It flashed and I couldn't get it with a magnifier quick enough. It went away. So I am starting to think, everything is kind of not working in my favor. So,
Did things cross your mind? Like we're talking a little bit about self-seeking now. Did you tell yourself that your day, did you ruin your day with it? This day sucks.
not so much today, but I had an energy for hours. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was home alone, luckily. But I had an energy and I remember like 3, 4 hours later going, am I still upset over that thing?
Mhm.
And then I made amends to it. I said, you know what, camera, you're not that powerful. I'm not giving you my mind. You and I will get back to business, but right now I need to be freed from that bondage. And I was. So, but but you're helping me see it deeper. I didn't call a coach. I didn't because once I got to a point where I realized what I was doing, but it's like you asked a great question. Do you find yourself bringing some of that same battle, that control thinking into other things you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we start, after the anger triggers our, after we're in our amygdala and the anger triggers the programs, the conditioned thinking in our brain, that's when the stories ensue about this always happens to me and how come I can't get anything working the first time. And that triggers other programs, conditioned thinking that we ran for years with playing in our minds that we used so we didn't have to be accountable, so that we could be the victim, so we could get what we wanted, so we could do self-seeking behavior without feeling bad about it. Whatever the story is, it's habitual thinking is what I'm trying to say. So it triggers the habitual thinking and we're off to the races. Now, even when we have tools like you and I have, we may not be in that place for as long as we used to. We could reel it in, but that energy, you stay in that lower vibration for a little while. You stay in that lower vibration until it works its way out of the body, because we allow it to work its way out of the body and be released now because we have the tools. But if you don't have the tools, you're still thinking about this when you go to bed.
Or or I have maybe somebody else in the house has a higher level. Their energy is like matched to the good day, happy, things are rolling, and my energy comes into the room where that energy is, and I don't like that energy because I want it and I don't have it right now. So let me see if I can get you down where I am. And then that could be even unconsciously. Or I can share the story and add a lot of like real harsh things about that I don't take responsibility for. You wouldn't believe how stupid this. And then that person's energy was up here, and then they maybe feel a little bad for me, and they go, "Wow!" And now I'm bringing it down, so I'm feeling a little more comfortable.
Right, right.
I mean, that's crazy if you think about it. You know what I mean? You know those toxic vampires, people that always come in blaming, complaining,
Oh yeah,
justifying their,
yeah.
huh?
I said, oh yeah, yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to go walk around or go to the work or call somebody. I don't want to spread that. I don't want to be that type of guy because I was for years. And I woke up and I did a process and I continue to take a look at, and anger is an obvious one. It's obvious
It
that
is.
as soon as it hits, and it could be my first thought, something outside of me created it. Is it justified? It doesn't matter because I will never clean it up by justifying. It's okay and it is okay to get upset once in a while. It
Yeah.
is, but don't let it kill you.
Consume you. It's when you start telling the story, when I go to that place where I say, in the moment that I say, this always happens to me, when I personalize the event, and I can very easily personalize something like my camera not working. I can easily be the victim of my camera not working. The second that I make it personal, that I attach meaning to it, that's relative to me, that it's happening to me instead of it just happening, it's game over. I'm already lowered my vibration. You know what I mean? So when I find myself saying that something is happening to me, you can challenge that, or I'll challenge that thinking and stop and say, really? Is it happening to me, Bren? Is it? I say, Bren, I talk out loud a lot. Is that happening to you, or is it just happening? And 99.9% of the time, it's just happening. It's just happening. It's not, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And a lot of times, Charlie, I go there just because I'm used to going there first. I'm used to going down that road first. It's a road well traveled.
Yeah, and because I know how I can, some things that put me in the anger, like I know things about me. I know how I tick. I know. So knowing that helps me because I don't want to have to make 15 calls a day because every little thing is making me angry. And that doesn't happen. So I just I have a camera, right? So I got a nice camera here.
Very nice.
These things have 4,300 things in the menu and the buttons and the not difficult, very they offer a lot of customability, flexibility. You can really do really professional stuff, but you also can use it. You don't have to be that crazy. And I know, Brenda, because I'm legally blind. So this little screen, see that little screen?
Yeah. It's hard for me to see even.
That's where the menu, that's where all the information I'm trying to learn is coming to. So I plug it into a bigger monitor. So I have bigger print. So I set myself up so I don't get mad and start thinking Sony, they're all stupid. But then Sony, and I wrote several times, they actually put a screen reader in this camera. So when I go into the menu, it's not perfect. But it is really cool. So it reads, and then I can use it better than if it didn't do that. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And that's why now this one, if you see that,
yep,
that is, you see my hand. Look at how tiny that is.
It's small.
I mean, you got to be like, Steve Austin to read this screen. So anyway, but what can I do about this? What will happen if I say that should be different? The print should be bigger. The company should have done this. They should have thought about me when they made this, because that's just the way it should be. Instead, I say, I know the size of the print. I know the tools I'm going to need. And I wish I remembered when you don't use electronics and things for quite some time, I have two other computers, and one of them's a laptop. And if I wait 2 months to fire it up, guess what it does? It does updates. It goes through a process and says, you haven't used me. I got to do some maintenance and things so I can then present myself so you can use me the way you want to, which is really nice. But I forget that things in this technology world how it worked 6 months ago isn't going to be the
Mm,
same. It
mm,
just isn't, right?
right, right.
So thank you, because I
And
am going to take another dive at that thing.
there you go. Now that you've updated the firmware, it should work just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to anger, so I think we've talked about that there's a couple of different forms. There's the raging kind of anger, right? There's that subtle anger that we just walk around kind of stomping our feet and slamming doors, that cold shouldering kind of anger, right? The self-seeking behavior during
Silent scorn.
scorn.
What's wrong? Nothing. That one.
Because you're supposed to know what's wrong. You're supposed to know. You're
Yep.
supposed to read my mind. You know you did. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad those days are over for the most part. That's another big one.
Mm.
That's about, that kind of anger comes with, mad at you for not respecting the boundary I didn't set.
Yeah, I'm mad at you for not reading my mind and knowing I need you to somehow do something to fix it, even though I don't really know, but you should know. So damn it, do it.
Yes. Or it is another good one that I used to get mad about a lot was you're not behaving the way I would in that moment. You see how I behave, so you should know how I like it. You just need to do what I do, and everything would be fine. But the assumption is that they're paying attention to the way that I'm doing something. And nobody's paying attention to the way I'm doing anything, so that they can model it back or mirror it back to me. That's all the bondage of self.
May I ask you, are you watching the way they do it?
Oh, well, back then, absolutely, because I wanted them to do it the way I did it.
Isn't that amazing how we are arranging the ballet, the lights,
Oh my
and
God.
we are monitoring how let's just say how things get taken out of a cabinet, the way it's put away, the noise that's processed to use the device, the way the ice is put in the cup. I mean, I know I have systems for all of it. And if you use the ones, and if you've watched me in the kitchen, you obviously will said that's the best way ever. He does everything. And that's what you've adopted. And if you forgot one day and you accidentally went back to your way, that irritates me. I'll let it slide. But 2 days in a row, honey, we got a problem.
Right. No
And
more of
that's
that. Thank
sad.
goodness. Yeah. Well, it's nice to be able to skip that drama today because people get to be who they are.
Yep.
People get to behave however they behave. My daughter and her boyfriend live with me, and they will cook and have a meal and leave the dishes in the sink. Now, 10 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, that would have driven me crazy. It doesn't bother me. They're not really even in my way. And if they're in my way, I'll say something. Please come wash the dishes. They're in my way. That's simple. Without any drama, without any judgment, without any blaming, because it's not a big deal. They usually get to it the next morning. Now, if they were piling up dishes for a week in there, that'd be a problem. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a reasonable situation. And how important is it for them to wash the dishes right after they cook when they stay up late and they could easily do it in the morning? It's not for me.
And Brendan, that's a good lesson for me. It's like, because of my mother, because of the way I was raised, because of my wife, because of the people and the environment in the kitchen and eating, there was never anything left. I mean, you ate, you cleaned, everything was great, you moved on. And so if somebody could eat and then just throw things in the sink, and I can leave a bowl and stuff until the next morning. There's not a lot, but that is really what I like now is I say, that's interesting that they're okay with that. I obviously have work to do because I want to say something. I want to just ask, how is it okay to eat and leave stuff in the sink? Doesn't that speak to you in the other room? Because it, you know, and and then
It's calling your name.
yeah. So anyway, this stuff this is what we do, guys. We're not cuckoo. We dive in when we work with you, and we peel it back to where you find that I'm attaching to the way people are using a sink, and because of that, it bothers me the way the car's parked, the way they put their towel in the shower. So I'm realizing, but it really stems from me not accepting that other people are going to be themselves. and they don't need to be any differently than the way they are, unless it's harmful. You know what I mean? But,
Mhm.
and it's like, wait, I guess that's why we often talk about this bondage of self and how to be free of that bondage. Because when our difficulties, which are control, powerlessness, should be different, it always happens to me. So when these difficulties are removed, um, I can then live in thy power, thy love, thy way of life. Take
Yeah.
away my difficulties because victory over them really puts me in a place of neutrality,
Mhm.
safe and protected. It's okay. You can live your life and do the things the way you do it. And I can do what I do. And everybody's just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
that is something was foreign until I did the work. And it's so nice to be that way. And I can easily drop into, okay, it's time to run the show again. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. The difference is when you start doing this work and you start practicing these tools, you will get out of that mindset much quicker. You'll get out of it much quicker. That doesn't mean I don't experience anger. Of course I experience anger, but I'm able to see it for what it is, work with somebody to get it remedied and right sized, find some humility in those moments, make amends when I need to, and then it's over. I'm not thinking about it a year from now. It's over. It's over. Right? The other thing I want to share with people that's really important, I didn't know this until probably like the last 3 or 4 years. Your body, the human body is an antenna. You have a somatic system. You're going to feel it in your body before it registers in your brain that you're angry. So if you start paying attention to the way your body feels, like when I start to become tense, right? That's the beginning of anger for me. Like my breathing will change, or in a moment I get tense. I feel that in my body, and when I'm in tune with my body, I can say whoa, right,
Mm-hmm.
and take a step back and do some quick breathing exercises, and it kind of nips it from getting the amygdala, right, from it stops the signal from going to the amygdala, and I nip it, and then I kind of just sit down and say, what's going on, like what just happened. I like to look at the few thoughts before I started feeling differently. The first few thoughts before, what was going on, like 3 or 4 thoughts before I tensed up. And just, even if I just jot it down on a piece of paper and then I take a look at it. Oh, that's interesting what happened. Because sometimes I'm triggered and I don't know why. And I have to take a look, a few thoughts back. Because
Yep.
it may not be that, I dropped my phone. That wasn't really the anger trigger. It was, 10 minutes ago when that one said that, or this happened, or that happened, or I didn't get my way. It's usually something has gotten the ball rolling and then something else seals the deal and I'm off and running. So a long-winded way of saying, and I can be long-winded, and that's just the way I am, and I like it. Listen to your body. Listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's got so much to say.
It does. It's amazing. So for health, for wellness, for uh asking your higher self, but
Mm,
I'm telling you that, like, there's emotions that, I don't know. I mean, something that I'm just going through the day, but the one I do have no problem recognizing is anger.
yeah.
And the teeth, I bite down on my teeth. There's like centers that you can go with a bat and beat office equipment and stuff to help release some anger. Now,
Love it.
I want to do that, but I know one thing. If I'm mad at my GoPro camera and I go beat an office to death, it's not going to fix it. It's going to feel good in the moment. And then I'm going to think, well, the office I really need to beat with the bat is my own. And, or having a punching bag, or, you're angry. So you get on the throttle of the car and maybe you
Mm,
go fast and then do something to try to get rid of it. But those methods don't. That's more anger management. You're trying to manage something that could be removed.
yeah. Yeah. You know what a great way to get your brain waves down and to get more grounded and centered is to walk barefoot in the grass or on the earth. The electromagnetic field, which is shielded by the rubber on the, it's blocked by the rubber on the bottoms of our shoes. So we're not grounding with the earth like we used to. But there's such a large electromagnetic field that comes out of our bodies and that comes out of the earth. And when you're walking barefoot on the earth, it does some magical stuff to your energy system that could really change your mood literally in under 5 minutes.
Yeah. If you go out in the morning, do some breathing, get some sun on your body, do some grounding, and constant thought of others, how I'm probably not going to have to do too many anger calls that day. Because like you said, it's reconnecting to source. And when you and I and people are out there on their own, they are they have a malady, they're disconnected, whether it's from their family, and they don't really mean to be, but they just feel like they're a rudderless ship. They attach anger all over the place. And I was recently, somebody was very angry over stupid. But of course, when somebody's angry over something that I don't have any experience with or relationship with, it's stupid. I mean, come on, that's nothing. But I'm freaking out over a GoPro. They're like, I don't even know what a GoPro is. so but I was like, dude, is there any other way to look at this? I mean, did you have anything to do with it? Well, yeah, but it was so funny to lovingly just crack the door a little. I never said, your troubles, your anger, all of that is your own making.
Yeah.
No one else has the power to get you angry unless you give it to him. He would have said, man, you're dumb. I would never go that aggressive into somebody, because nor do we do that in the work.
No.
Bring you to a place where you can take 100% responsibility.
Yeah. I was actually pretty direct with you because you're a coach and we're direct with each other. When I work with clients, it's gentle, honest, open questions so they can get to these things on their own. Because no one's going to remember what you tell them. They're going to remember what they feel. And in order for them to remember what they feel, they have to feel it. So we have to let them feel it by asking them questions and letting them make their own discoveries about how their internal system is working.
Isn't that the truth? It's like what my coach and what the people have done was help me see what I'm not seeing, but maybe not give me the answer, but help me uncover it, which would then reorder a little in my mind, creating a new experience, a new aha moment, a new learning, and more growth for me.
Mm.
And it's like, what that person did to help me, I don't remember.
Mm.
Thankfully, I have people in my life that don't need that. They don't need me to send them the trophy or the certificate of you're such a great coach. None of that.
Yeah.
We do this because, I'm the guy, the blind guy, helping people see. We don't see with our eyes, we see with our brains. And, the number one cause of blindness in the world isn't eye diseases, it's thinking. And one of the best ways to go blind is stay angry.
That's a great way to end the podcast, Charlie. That's a great ending.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been, wonderful. I have zero anger in me right now. I'll go try to ramp some up. No, I'm only kidding.
That's a whole nother podcast.